Japan and Vietnam have a history that goes beyond just trade and investments. In recent years, both countries have been strengthening their diplomatic ties, too. Japan has been actively involved in various development projects in Vietnam, ranging from infrastructure to education and healthcare. This involvement is not just altruistic, it also serves Japan's strategic interests. Vietnam is increasingly being seen as a counterbalance to China's growing influence in the region, which aligns with Japan's geopolitical strategy. Moreover, Japan's own domestic factors play a role in these investments. Japan has a shrinking population and a mature domestic market. In contrast, Vietnam offers a booming young population with a median of around 30 and a growing middle class with increasing spending power. So, for Japanese companies, Vietnam represents both a market for their products and a source of labor. The increasing number of free trade agreements, or FTAs, and economic partnerships between the two countries also pave the way for easier business transactions. For instance, the Japan-Vietnam Economic Partnership Agreement, or JVEPA, that took effect in 2009, significantly lowered tariffs and made it easier for Japanese companies to access the Vietnamese market. What makes this relationship even more significant is the geopolitical tension in the South China Sea. Vietnam, one of the claimants in the dispute, finds a somewhat natural ally in Japan, which has its own maritime disputes with China. Though Japan is not directly involved in the South China Sea, it has a vested interest in ensuring that the region remains stable. Investments in Vietnam can be seen as part of Japan's broader strategy to maintain a balance of power in Southeast Asia. So when we talk about why Japanese companies are buying Vietnamese businesses, we must see it as part of a larger jigsaw puzzle. It's not just about economics, it's about diplomacy, strategy, and long-term vision. And as the trend continues, we can expect these investments to play an increasingly significant role in shaping not just the business landscape, but also the political dynamics between Japan and Vietnam. Now, let's go ahead and look at these acquisitions. Japanese companies have a very balanced investment approach in Vietnam, touching multiple sectors. One of the most prominent is the renewable energy sector. With climate change becoming a global crisis, Japan sees Vietnam as a fertile ground for investing in clean energy solutions. Companies like JERA have been acquiring stakes in Vietnamese renewable energy firms, positioning themselves as leaders in the shift towards sustainable development. With Vietnam planning to produce 15 to 20% of its energy from renewable sources by 2030, Japanese investment in this sector is not only timely but also strategic. Another key area of interest is finance and banking. Recently, Sumitomo Mitsui Financial Group, or SMFG, bought a $1.5 billion stake in Vietnam's VP Bank. This is not just a business transaction. It's a leap into Vietnam's growing financial market, which has been spurred by strong economic growth and an increasingly digital lifestyle. Banks like SMFG can provide the technological know-how and capital needed to modernize Vietnam's banking sector. It's a win-win. Vietnam gets the benefit of advanced Japanese banking technology, and Japan gets to tap into a rapidly expanding financial market. Japanese companies are also making strides in the technology sector. Investments in fintech and e-commerce companies indicate that Japan is looking to capitalize on Vietnam's digital transformation. With a young population that's tech-savvy, Vietnam is an ideal place for Japanese tech companies to test new products and services. In manufacturing, Japan already has a stronghold. Companies like Toyota and Honda have been in Vietnam for years. However, new trends show that Japanese firms are increasingly looking to diversify their manufacturing bases, with Vietnam emerging as a favorable destination due to its lower labor costs and relatively stable political environment. This move has been accelerated by global events like the US-China trade war and the COVID-19 pandemic, which exposed the risks of over-reliance on a single country for manufacturing needs. So why are Japanese companies interested in these particular sectors? It boils down to a combination of Vietnam's market potential, geopolitical strategy, and the strategic fit with Japan's own economic needs and global ambitions. The Vietnamese market offers growth and scale, while Japan brings capital, technology, and expertise. This symbiotic relationship allows both countries to fill the gaps in their respective economies, creating a balanced and beneficial investment environment. Now, the influx of Japanese investment is changing the landscape of opportunities for the Vietnamese people. For starters, job creation is a major benefit. Japanese companies, particularly those in manufacturing, often set up large facilities that require a substantial workforce. This has led to thousands of new jobs in various cities and provinces, reducing unemployment rates and offering stable income opportunities for the locals. Not just any jobs, but jobs that often come with the promise of skills training and long-term career growth. But the impact goes beyond employment. Japanese companies are known for their disciplined work culture and efficient processes. As they establish their operations in Vietnam, they bring along their work ethics, systems, and technologies. This provides a valuable learning experience for the Vietnamese workforce. Local employees gain new skills and qualifications, which makes them more competitive in the global market. This uplifts the overall standard of professionalism and work ethics in Vietnam. Healthcare and education sectors also benefit indirectly from these investments. As Japanese companies set up their operations, the local governments often use the increased tax revenues to improve public services. Investments in technology and finance sectors have a domino effect on digital literacy and access to financial services for ordinary Vietnamese citizens. Financial inclusion becomes easier when people can bank online or manage their finances through an app. This promotes a culture of saving and financial planning, something that has long-term benefits for an economy. Japanese investments also spur innovation. The technology transfer that happens as a part of these business deals is invaluable. It provides Vietnamese companies access to cutting-edge Japanese technologies, which they can adapt or improve upon. Over time, this leads to local innovations that can find markets beyond Vietnam. The strategic position of Vietnam in Southeast Asia, with its rapidly growing economy, makes it an attractive location for Japanese investments. However, these financial commitments have implications that extend beyond pure economics. They impact the geopolitical landscape in the region, shaping relationships not just between Japan and Vietnam, but also involving other major players like China and the United States. Japan's deepening economic ties with Vietnam can be viewed as part of a broader strategy to balance China's growing influence in the region. As many of you may know, Japan and China are competitors in various aspects: economically, technologically, and politically. By investing heavily in Vietnam, Japan can establish a strong presence in a country that also has complicated relations with China. This move helps Japan to not only secure its business interests, but also to create a strategic geopolitical ally in Southeast Asia. This alliance has implications for the United States as well. The US, a key ally of Japan, is also trying to counter China's influence in the region. Japan's investments in Vietnam can serve as an extension of US interests, strengthening the position of democratic countries in a region largely influenced by China. It also enhances trilateral cooperation among Japan, the US, and Vietnam, particularly in sectors like technology and defense. But these geopolitical maneuvers are delicate. Vietnam maintains a policy of not aligning completely with any single superpower. It values its relationship with China for both historical and economic reasons. Therefore, while Vietnam welcomes Japanese investments, it also treads carefully to ensure that it doesn't strain its relationship with its powerful neighbor to the north. Furthermore, as Japanese companies pour money into sectors like technology and manufacturing in Vietnam, they contribute to reducing Vietnam's economic reliance on China. This financial diversification grants Vietnam more leeway in its foreign policy decisions, allowing it a more balanced approach in international politics. Investing in another country is not just about pouring in money and reaping quick profits. It's about creating a sustainable business environment. Japanese companies are generally known for their long-term approach to business, which aligns well with Vietnam's own development goals. However, we shouldn't overlook the risks involved. The biggest concern is economic dependence. While investments boost the Vietnamese economy, becoming too reliant on Japanese firms could be risky. If political relations were to sour, or if Japan faces an economic downturn, the implications for Vietnam could be severe. Additionally, Japan's strategic interests in Vietnam as part of a counterbalance to China also mean that these investments come with geopolitical strings attached. As relations among Asian powers are complex and ever-changing, a shift in regional dynamics could alter the course of Japanese investments.